and he ran up, and he was about a quarter mile in front of me, and I could see him, slow a little bit. I saw him turn around a couple times, and I said, you know what, he's hurting as well, you know, and just stay tough. And there was 3 miles to go, I think, and I just said, stay in there and stay as far as focus. So for me, it was never second. It was still a chance to win. So it was always like, I can still win, I can still win, I can still win, until I hit a leahy drive, and then it was like, just stay up, don't fall over. You know, I just finished that last half mile.
I mean, you really never feel that it's in the bag, right? Even after you gapped them a little bit, because you look back at Paul Newby-Frazier and some of the other athletes who've had problems.
It's never over. It's even on a leahy drive, you know. But yeah, no, I mean, I was cramping. That's why I was looking back. I was cramping a lot. I'd run out of salt tablets, and yeah, for a while there, I felt like I couldn't even stride out. You know, that last long grade up to the top of Poloni, I thought, you know, I contemplated stopping and walking because I thought I could probably walk. I felt like my stride length was that long. I was cramping in the groin, and it's never over. It's such a tough race, and I mean, you've been out there battling hard for 8 hours, so you know, you're so depleted. I think that's the time to stay mentally strong and just keep moving. I think, you know, you go through those peaks and troughs mentally, and but each 30 seconds or a minute, that's a minute closer to the finish, you know. Right. So you just, I think mentally, that's the time you need to stay on top of things. And but no, you know, the house of cards can come down at any time. So, you know, I think that's what people always say. Oh, did you enjoy the last few miles? You enjoy the last couple of 100 meters. I think, honestly. I mean, sure. Inside of you, when you're in the league, you're thinking, this is great, this is where I wanted to be, this is where I dreamt of being, but it's still a battle. Still a battle that's, you know, that's raging inside. So you do enjoy it down the finish chute, the last couple of 100 meters, but I think, you know, there's still a job to do before then.
Did you find it different going in as defending champion? Was there more pressure on you? Were there more interviews, more people looking at you than when you came in as a second place guy?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the pressure from on me was the same, but I think, right. Yeah, the external pressure, I mean, certainly there was more demands on my time from sponsors, from media. It just seemed like every other day there was stuff to do. And, you know, I've always been pretty good with that side of it, though, because I think, you know, as a young athlete coming up, you crave having sponsorship and, sure. and that kind of thing. And then if you're ever lucky enough to be in that position, I think it's a little ungrateful and, you know, a bit whingy and whiny to complain about. I mean, no one's just going to give you money and then disappear for 12 months. You know, you're there as an ambassador and a spokesperson for their brand. And, right. I mean, that's a job in itself, and it's a job I take seriously. So that was all part and parcel of it. I got great help from my wife, who sort of manages that side of my career for me. So really, I just trained hard and tried to be a good dad. Took care of the business side of things as best as possible, but you know, I think there's always pressure. I mean, going in the first year I raced Kona in 07, I was the defending world champion at 70.3. So I had pressure that going in on myself, thinking, you know, obviously I've never raced here before, but you know, I thought I had the potential to do something good. And then, you know, if you go there on debut and get second, the next year that was probably the most pressure, because it's kind of like, you know, there's only one place to go, otherwise it's going to be seen as a train wreck. So, and it's kind of funny because I think the first year I raced in Kona, I felt like just a school kid who'd done well in his maths exam but didn't really know why. You know, I'd passed the test, but I wasn't confident that if I had to sit it again tomorrow, I'd get the same result. So, but I think that all comes back to the mystique of the race and just the toughness of Ironman racing. You know, you can do the same thing twice over and get a completely different result. There's just that unpredictability, which I think is part of the allure and part of the challenge of it, really. But you know, I must say it's still early in the year, but I don't feel as much pressure now as I did this time last year. As you know, having won one, and I mean, you know, there's been quite a few people win one and then disappear. But you know, everyone kept reminding me only 3 people had ever defended, and there's only, I think, 4 or 5 multiple winners. So, right. Yeah, I certainly felt the pressure. Every interview I did, that seemed to come up, that question, and what would it mean, and how hard's it going to be, but I always come back to the same thing that I that I've always come back to, which is just control what I can control, which is my preparation, my mental outlook, and then do the best I can. I'll live with whatever result I get dealt, because I feel I will have earned whatever I've got, good or bad. And it's funny because you want to become a professional, and I became a professional athlete almost immediately starting in the sport, and then it's a different pressure, because now I was a qualified physical therapist with a university degree, and I sort of felt I had to prove myself to family and friends. What was I doing traveling around doing this sport when I had a degree that I could be using? So there was pressure then. And then you make a little bit of money and you decide to push full on into the sport and make a profession out of it, and there's pressure again. Sure. So I think your whole career you're dealing with it. Absolutely. And I think you just learn to deal with it the best you can. So
we had Dave Scott on the radio show a few weeks before.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, you know where this is going. Actually, it was a few weeks before Kona, and we said, we know you've been doing core work with Greg, so how's he looking? And he says, well, he just had this pretty amazing workout, which he probably wasn't supposed to share, but it started with a 115-mile bike ride, something like that? Yeah, and then a run over to the track, which is about a mile away. Yep. And then what'd you do on the track?
I did 13 one-mile repeats.
And what did you leave on?
I was leaving on the 6 minute send-off.
6 minute send-off, and this is up at altitude.
Yeah, 5,500 feet, yeah.
Yeah, and so the first one is, how fast did you do these things?
I never start them too quick. The first 2 or 3, I just make the time 5:55s, and then I try and progressively descend them throughout the session.
To what?
I was down to under 5:20 at the end.
And then after that, after 12 of those, then you jog back home.
That's the easy part. That's the part you look forward to. But that was a session I did. I didn't mind that Dave shared it. I don't think there's any secrets, in training. I think
someone still has to do it.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone has their staple sessions. It's like a brick session.
Yeah, and if anyone heard that workout and thought, oh, that's a perfect workout for me, they'd probably kill themselves. So
yeah,
it was probably him telling him to leak it so someone would go out and try it that same weekend.
Make sure you leak that, Dave. No, you know me, Bob. I'm not into the mind games at all. But I don't think there's any secrets. It was a session I did, and Dave's a guy I've respected for years, and I always ask his opinion, and he's never a shrinking violet in giving his opinion once you've asked for it. So. I thought it was ironic. He thought I was overtraining. He's a guy notorious for flogging himself to death. But it was just a session I'd done. I think I'd read about in the magazine that Dave or Mark or one of them had done back in the day, and I know Welshie used to do sort of a variation of the same thing. I think everyone who's done Ironman's done some sort of brick session like that.
Some sort of brick session.
Yeah. I'm going to go
115. How many people out there have ridden 115 and run 12 miles off the bike?
I'm going to do 120 and I'm going to run 1 mile.
Just to stick it to them. Nice. So Chris, you're coming across the finish line and you've got to have mixed emotions. On one side, you wanted to win the race. Second, your best performance ever for you in Kona, coming in second. So that next day or two, how did you deal with it?
Yeah, it was a unique experience. It was something I didn't expect as far as the feelings that I had. Finishing second is a phenomenal result, and I remember looking back in 2008, looking at Aniko who got second and go, wow, man, that was such a phenomenal result. It was amazing. And this year I finished second, and I was not that excited. And so for a week or so I really wrestled with, not going down that road, making sure that I was encouraging myself, going, that was good, because you want to make sure that you build on that. And so for me that was really important. But my wife and I, we sat down like 4 or 5 days later, and we were looking at our goals for the next year, and she said, okay, well, what is your first goal? She said, of course it's become world champion next year, right? And I said I don't know. I didn't really want it at that time because of the effort that it took and the preparation. That's always the case. You always put a lot into it.